Hello, my name is Jonathan Zuckerman. I'm the director of the Adult CF program at Maine Medical Center. Over the past few years, our Adult CF team has recognized the need to provide more information about G-tube feeding. This video is especially made for you, a person with CF living in or near the state of Maine. Why do we think this topic is important, and what are we hoping to accomplish in this short film? First, I'd like to emphasize the critical importance good nutrition plays in maintaining healthy lungs, especially for people with cystic fibrosis. Here we see in a graph that comes from data in the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation National Registry. It shows how patients with better nutritional status, shown by body mass index along the horizontal axis, tend to have higher lung function, shown by the spirometry numbers on the vertical axis. This applies to both men and women. Better nutritional status associates with better lung function. Perhaps more importantly, we want this video to take some of the mystery out of how a G-tube is put in and how it is used. You will meet some of the people who will help you decide whether a G-tube is right for you. And they will walk you through the steps to getting one placed. What does a tube look like? Where is it done? Who is the surgeon? How do patients from Maine feel about these devices? Do they have any helpful tips? Lots of questions like these will be addressed in this video.
The process starts when the patient decides with the team that a feeding tube is indicated and it's time to do it, or close to the time to do it. At that point, usually the pulmonary office will contact my office, and then we try to cater it to the individual patient. Some patients will want to come to my office to meet with me to discuss it. My office is on Outer Congress Street, not quite to Westbrook, and we can talk about it there. I can go through the instrumentation. Other patients would prefer just to meet me in the endoscopy suite, and then we get the referral from the pulmonary office, Dr. Zuckerman's office, and we schedule the procedure. It's almost always on a Thursday at Maine Medical Center. And then I'll meet the patients up here, and we'll get to know each other for a few minutes beforehand. I'll put the tube in, and then they head home. I do this procedure in the endoscopy suite at Maine Medical Center. It's on the 4th floor, far away from the operating room. It's a dedicated suite to doing GI endoscopy. The procedure usually takes 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes 15, but that's by my clock. Every patient is sedated, so to them it's a blink of an eye because you're not really aware that we're doing it. But it takes about 5 to 10 minutes to do. And you come into the room, we give you some sedation. Once we're sure that you're sleepy, then I do the procedure, and then you wheel on down the hallway for a few more minutes, half hour, maybe even an hour and a half, just to wake up, recover until you feel like you're ready to go home, and then off you go. Once the tube is in, there's not a lot for you to do with the tube. You go home and basically keep the area clean. And I'm fine the next day with a person showering. That's really not a problem. Some people want to keep a gauze bandage around it. Sometimes these will bleed, never much, but just bleed a little bit, and just to protect from a tiny spot on your shirt, or some people put a gauze dressing on it for a few days. But that's optional from my point of view. A dressing is optional, or a bandage is optional. Showering the next day is fine. The discomfort is, for most people, it's a Tylenol level discomfort. Once you've decided to have a tube placed, or the team has decided this is the right time for it, there are two choices for tubes. There's the standard PEG tube, and PEG is percutaneous endoscopic gastrostomy. But there's the standard PEG tube, which is put in and it generally dangles about 10 inches from the abdomen. It can be any of various ranges. And that's the standard PEG tube that most gastroenterologists are comfortable putting in. Then there's the MIC tube, or the Mickey tube. That sticks up all of about 1/4 of an inch from the skin. It's flat, it's got a little pop top cap on it. A lot of people like that too. Generally about a month after the procedure, I like to see people in the office just to check the healing, make sure the tube's working okay, and generally any problems are going to be detected well before then. But I like to see everybody at least once in the office afterwards. And then I'm available forever if there are questions or problems.
My name is Ashley Drew, and I'm 24. I'm from Scarborough, Maine. I'm a graduate from the University of Maine, Orono. I have an undergrad degree in music education and jazz, and I'm working on my master's in conducting. And I was born with cystic fibrosis. With CF, as you lose weight, your lung function tends to dip as well. So my lung function was dipping with my weight. And so with the feeding tube, it's completely stabilized it, so it hasn't gone down. It actually works out great because there's a lot of days where I'm just not hungry and I need to eat a certain amount of calories or I'll start to lose weight and I'll get sicker. So it supplements the eating that I'm not doing. So it will give me about 1,400 calories while I sleep at night. I thought it was going to interfere a lot with my life, but you can work it around your time schedule, work. If you go to bed earlier, you start earlier. You can change the rates on it too. So with me, I have to do 600 milliliters a night, and normally you can have it at a 60 rate an hour, so 10 hours. You can have it go faster, 70 or 80, so then it would only be, say, 7 or 8 hours a night, things like that to speed it up. So you still get all your calories, but it works with your time schedule. So one of the things I was wondering about is when they have to change the feeding tube. I wasn't sure what it looked like, if it was long, if it was gonna hurt. And it doesn't hurt at all, and I was really nervous about that. It's literally just a straight tube that's about 2 or 3 inches into your stomach. It comes straight out and goes straight in. There's no pain at all. The thing I was also worried about when I first got it was when I ate, was stuff gonna come out of the tube because there's a hole in my stomach? And that doesn't happen at all. The first, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, if I had water or a lot to drink, and in my case I drink a lot of Mountain Dew, it would, I would notice a little bit would come out the edges while the hole itself was healing, but that after the first 2 weeks that doesn't happen anymore. The only one thing that I thought at first would be a challenge was during the summers going to the beach and being out in, say, a bathing suit, and I wear 2 pieces, not 1 piece. But for me, I found all these ways around it just using skin colored tape. I just put over it, and literally I have little kids in my family. They don't even notice. When you're trying to, say, go out for a night out and maybe wearing tight clothing, there's a strange bump there, so some things fit a little differently. Other than that, I really don't have any negatives. There's so many things that outweigh any little negative there is, and most of the negatives I'd have to say are about the physical, the looks, opposed to how much it actually helps. Rare occasions I do have pain, and most of the time it's I've gained weight and I need a bigger feeding tube, a longer one. If it's too small, you get an indent on the front of your stomach, and it can cause irritation on the inside. And so then you just need to get a little bit larger one put in, and you're good to go, and the pain goes away. The best part of this, I would have to say, not worrying about not eating, because it's really not fun to eat when you're really not hungry. I want people to know that it's not a big deal to have a feeding tube. People have so many other crazy things nowadays that having a little bump on your stomach isn't a bad thing, and being positive about it makes everything different. I mean, I've named mine, it's my button, therefore it's not strange anymore. It's not strange to my friends, to my family. It's very helpful, and keeping your lung function up is so much more important than a little bump on your stomach.
I would say, talking from experience, if you're feeling scared about the process, it was definitely not as traumatic as I thought it was going to be. The process of actually getting it in is painless, and they kind of put you in the half sleep, but I don't remember anything about getting it in. And healing afterwards is very little. I always told myself, like, I can eat more, I can eat more, I can do it, I can eat more. And to have that whole thing of like food doesn't even seem attractive to you anymore because you're forcing yourself to eat is not even worth it. Like, I go with the feeding tube 100 times over. When I first had it put in, I had a hard time. I couldn't eat within like 3 hours of the time that I was going to start my feeding because I run mine overnight. I can eat like a small snack within like an hour before, as long as it's a small amount, and then I just eat like a really big supper, and ends up being fine. And I end up still being like really hungry for breakfast in the morning. I don't wake up feeling like, oh, I'm so full, I got all this fluid in me. If you're worried about like, oh, I won't be like hooked up to things during the day or at night, it's when I sleep at night, it's not really like an inconvenience. Like I had a couple weeks where I was adjusting to like the feeling of the tube resting on my body just because you're not used to something having there. But if you sleep with like oxygen or something like that anyway, it's like the same thing, same feeling. It's like a short adjustment period and then you don't even know it's there. I can't wear like a tight shirt or bathing suit like I used to without having a little bit of a bump, but nothing that, I mean, you'd have to look twice to know it was there. I mean, as far as altering your image, it's very minimal. My son was like the biggest thing for me as far as deciding it's time to do something that's really going to work and not just, okay, if I do this, it might work. It was a great experience as far as being able to gain the weight and not have to worry about, okay, I have to eat now and I have to eat more and then I should be snacking, I should be having a shake, and food was just not attractive to me anymore. And now I enjoy it again and it's been good.
I will work with Dr. Cobean's office to schedule a half-an-hour appointment with Dr. Cobean, and he will go through everything that you need to know about the procedure. If you're already in the hospital, then the staff and I at the hospital will make those arrangements so you can have the tube placed prior to going home. Once you've seen Dr. Cobean, his office staff will let you know what the arrangements are and when you'll be going into Maine Medical Centre. If you're already in the hospital, it will be placed before you go home. Otherwise, Dr. Cobean places feeding tubes every Thursday at Maine Medical Centre, and the wait time's about 1 to 3 weeks. You'll be asked to arrive at Maine Medical Centre about 1.5 hours before the procedure. You'll go to the admitting department and someone from admitting will take you up to endoscopy. The day of the procedure, you'll be asked not to eat anything for 6 hours before the procedure, and you can't drink anything for 4 hours before the procedure. Normally, you'll be able to go home the same day, depending on how you recover and your lung function. You'll be referred to a home care company who will come to the hospital and teach you how to take care of the pump and do your feeding tube. Then once you get home, they'll contact you and come out and see you again. The first 2 weeks of supplies will be delivered the day you go home from the hospital, and then after 2 weeks you'll get a call from the home care company. They'll do an inventory with you and then send you a month's supply at a time. You'll see Dr. Zuckerman in approximately 4 weeks after the procedure.
If increasing your weight has really been a struggle for you in the past, receiving a feeding tube will really help you to achieve that healthier weight. It's really important to understand that a feeding tube is not used as a last resort. It's more of an essential tool to help you to improve and maintain a healthier weight. You should expect once you start the tube feeding that you'll have an initial substantial weight gain in the first month and then usually a leveling off. The feeding tube will give you the extra calories and the nutrients that you need to achieve that healthier weight. It will help to help improve your lung function and help you fight off infection. We are all really busy in our lives. We have work, we have school, we have kids. So having a feeding tube at night will really help you to give you that energy to get through the day. After your tube feeding is placed, we will most likely start you out at a low volume or a low rate. And over the course of about a week, we will slowly increase the rate to your goal rate, determined by your dietitian. You may have heard of the term of BMI, which is body mass index, and that's the relation of your weight compared to your height. We would love for your weight or your BMI to be at goal, which is a BMI of 22 for females and 23 for males. Your provider and you will determine the best time to administer your tube feedings based on your own schedule. Usually we recommend that you have overnight tube feedings, or in other words, nocturnal feedings, as we call it. There's also the possibility of giving yourself daytime bolus feedings, which is basically giving yourself a dose of the formula during the day in a short period of time. The dietitian and your provider will be determining the type of formula that best meets your dietary needs. Typically, it's a calorie-dense formula, which means that it has more calories in a smaller volume. Your enzyme dosage will be determined by your provider. Typically, if you are having overnight feeds, we will recommend that you take a meal dose at the beginning of your tube feeding and then a snack dose when you wake up in the morning. So the recommendations may change in the near future as new formulations are being developed. You probably won't feel hungry in the morning after your overnight feeding. However, you should develop your appetite again mid-morning. It's important to remember that the feeding tube is used as a supplement, not necessarily to take place of your meals or your snacks. So you still need to take your meals and your snacks during the day. It's our hope that this feeding tube will help to decrease the stress of eating enough calories during the day and kind of give you a sense of relief to just enjoy eating in general. If you find after you start your tube feedings that you are having some nausea or vomiting or abdominal pain or even diarrhea, make sure you call the Cystic Fibrosis Clinic and let us know.
Our goal on the Adult CF team at Maine Medical Center is to help you remain fit and strong. We know that good nutrition is a cornerstone of wellness in CF and hope that this short video has helped to take some of the mystery out of G-tube feeding. If you still have questions about G-tubes and how they work, please talk to members of our team. We'll help you find the answers. Knowledge is power.